Hi, good morning. Welcome to the foundation course on communication and soft skills. Today's emphasis is again on writing skills. We started the module yesterday and we really had to go a long way in terms of mastering the entire writing skills as such. We started with understanding what writing skills are in general, the effectiveness towards making your writing present to the reader, to the set of audience. We also have analyzed the different steps to make your writing a smooth process. So we have discussed like 6 steps yesterday and we were talking in lines with these 6 steps. So we started to talk about how thinking and planning stage can help you to move on to be an effective writer, and how you're supposed to get an external evaluator to evaluate and then move on to publish or submit your writing aspect as such. So what is important out here is analyzing the 6 steps that we have discussed and moving ahead and really putting these 6 steps in the writing process. So be it email writing or be it a draft that you want to write or any text that you want to present, or essay writing, one of the most important interview discussion, and lot of job roles are analyzed based on your written communication. So your profile is analyzed apart from your spoken communication. How good are you at written communication as well? So it's important that you write well and make that first impressions to clear your interviews to get a job offer. And after your job offer too, what is most important is at an organization, if you are an employee, it is important that you come up with your writing structure effectively, for simple reasons being that you will be asked to write a report at workplace, or maybe you will be asked to design a strategy to present to a client. So we all have to work on written communication to make it more effective. So we started to talk about these 6 steps in specific, and we spoke about the fact that how thinking can help you to draft and plan your text effectively, and then we'll move on to proofread the text with not just your self analysis about the text that you have written, but you'll also get an evaluator from outside and then get your task submitted. So in essay writing, like we've discussed, it is important that we have to really be time bounded. That is, every time in an interview essay writing question is being asked, we have to go by the number of word limitation that they have quoted and the time limitation that they have shared. So it's important that I abide by the time and the word limit, and do not exceed the word limit. If you've been asked to write 250 words, it is always recommended you cannot exceed beyond 260 or 265 words, and you cannot underwrite the essay beyond 230 words. So see to that you balance it out and you don't overwrite it and underwrite your essay writing task. And how a typical essay would start, something we discussed yesterday. Let me make a note of this word. Essay writing as a task. So we have understood the fact that it all starts with introduction, and then we spoke about the body of the text, that is the body of the text, and then we have paragraphs in this. We all are supposed to conclude the topic in essay writing. For simple reason, your conclusion can add a lot of value towards the question which is being asked. Your opinion matters a lot. For simple reason, if a argument is being placed and if you can opine about that argument, it can add lot of value towards making your text impressive. So we will start with introduction. Then we have body of the paragraphs, and then we conclude the topic. So these are the typical 3 steps in essay writing, and you can actually add more sense when you add information in the paragraphs. Your paragraph should not exceed beyond 3 paragraphs, and it should be 5 to 6 lines as suggested yesterday in the video tutorial. you cannot exceed beyond which, and 5 to 6 lines, and then right choice of words, your grammar, your spelling, punctuation can make writing more effective. So let's begin today and understand with why writing skills can help us make that right impressions and how we can really drive effective communication through writing skills. So there are different ways to actually improve on your written communication, and every expert has given it more or less the same pointers, but maybe the choice of word which might have differed. So in order to develop your writing skills, there are certain techniques and strategies. So we did discuss something called ABC strategy to be a good writer, and then we also spoke about certain other strategies. So think about your reader's needs. Now let's also analyze from your reader's standpoint as to what your reader is wanting to read and what is that the reader wants from a typical writing text. Whatever you're writing, your aim should be to make your communication, your text as clear as possible, to present your ideas clearly and concisely, and to avoid ambiguity or redundancy. Well, we have a topic under English grammar called redundancy in English grammar, where we tend to add a word which doesn't really add value towards what we are trying to convey. So the text is something like let me give you these phrases such as repeat again, phrases such as revert back, reply back, are all redundant phrases with the word choice called back along with reply, because reply itself means writing back to the person. So be mindful of these phrases when we are using, because we all need to avoid redundancy and a written communication, for simple reason it doesn't add much value. In fact, it will ruin your communication, what you're trying to communicate through written language. So in order to work on your writing style, develop your confidence achieving that right set and the choice of words to add difference in what you want to communicate. If it is something you're still having a problem with, try adopting these very basic rules as you would write your thesis or a text. Avoid excessively long sentences. Most important point, because the long sentences just not confuse you as a writer, it will also confuse the reader, the audience that you're catering to. And then do not use a difficult word where a simple one would do. Ambiguity is at its peak when we write a choice of word, a word which is never really used before, or not knowing the level of audience who is reading, or knowing the level of audience that they are not competent enough to understand the complex choice of words. So as a writer, reduce the complexity, select only simplified words to make your text comprehensible, to make your text accepted, to make your text easy for the readers. Then we have to not use a difficult word when simple one can do. Use punctuation correctly to aid the sense of your writing. Punctuation adds sense to the sentences. So when I am adding a comma, I am adding a colon, I add a full stop or a period, I convey something very specific through this, and these rules of punctuation add sense to my writing. Then use paragraphs to break your text into logically self-contained units. So it's important that we break our thoughts logically. So when I say break our thoughts, one paragraph should have one idea. Like when we are discussing here in essay writing, after getting introduced to the topic, where I start with paraphrasing the main text, then I move on to get into the actual body of conversation. So in this body of conversation, when I have identified three main logical ideas, I am supposed to present these ideas in 3 paragraphs instead of jumbling all 3 ideas in one paragraph and confusing allowing the confusion to arise by the reader. So make sure that one idea versus one paragraph, and that is the same logic which has been applied for your email writing too. So you cannot have multiple ideas, multiple thoughts in single paragraph and confuse the reader, the audience. Okay, and moving towards using the paragraphs, to guide your readers through your thesis, it should include a system of signpost, things that explicitly or implicitly tell the reader what to expect, signpost, and what you are supposed to talk. So there's something called transition words in English language. So transition words are nothing but the signpost to tell you that you are moving towards a different paragraph, a different thought group or a thought process, rather than just introducing a new thought in the paragraph. So transition words are words which transit from one idea to the other idea. There are a lot of words in English language which function as transition words. Words such as additionally, secondly, firstly, all these are the words which are more like a signpost. It will allow you to really make a lot of sense when you write here, these words in the paragraph, where the reader can read and identify that, the thought is being moved towards something else, and you need to be attentive as a reader to get the right information, the accurate information. So moving on to talk about the other aspects, that is, so basic rules of good written English. It is important that you pay attention to the basic rules for good written English, accurate spelling and correct use of grammar and punctuation that we just discussed about. So basic rules of good written English, let me make a note of it again. Basic rules. So the first point that is important is good grammar. When I say good grammar, I literally mean accurate grammar sense, where I do not go wrong in terms of the tenses, in terms of the choice of words that I select, and then is your spelling. So there cannot be any spell errors, keep that in mind. Good grammar, spelling and punctuation rules. Can certainly help you to make lot of sense in your written or writing communication. So once again, good grammar, spelling and punctuation rules add lot of value to your writing, and you can make lot of sense in your written communication through these 3 pointers. Moving on, errors of spelling are best avoided by careful proofreading, because proofreading is also a stage that we will be dealing with specifically. And then you should never rely simply on your word processor's spell check function. Proofreading is something you should allow time for as part of your structure for redrafting your work. Do not expect your supervisors to do your proofreading for you. So not always, but yeah, we can certainly connect with people who are of little high caliber in language and whom you look up to. Grammar and punctuations can be difficult to get right, particularly if English is not your first language. For more advice, read the university's your university suggested books, because that can really make sense. So now what is important to keep in mind is sentence structure. How do a sentence structure function and work, and what is accurate? How do I use paragraphs in writing? How do I use colons and semicolons, part of your punctuation, apostrophes and commas are again part of your grammar punctuation rules. So the other tip that has been suggested by a lot of experts is write regularly to develop confidence and quality. Something we have discussed yesterday. If you have a diary writing habit, continue with it, because it can add a lot of sense to your written your writing style till you actually go back, capture the errors and see how you started and how the journey has been. So it's always been told that writing as you go takes some of the pressure out during your life moments, such as when you're really stressed, when you're really down in life, you can really write it down and probably let go of those feelings, and hence you can also add your writing knowledge and make a lot of difference towards it. So it is important that critical writing is also one form of writing where you really have to do a lot of research before getting in there. So having a structure, so we've discussed there's always a structure that we all have to follow in terms of our writing skills, and that structure has to be maintained accurately with lot of steps that we will be identifying at. So proofreading is one among them, your evaluating stage is one of those stages too, and moving on to describe further the other stages as well. So it's important that in order to develop writing, we follow the steps and we follow the certain routine method. So to improve your writing skills, start with mastering different mini skills. This is also one of the expert views which has been suggested. So a chef needs to learn chopping, sorting, roasting and grilling. So the person needs to understand what makes a meal nutritious. So this is not a cooking class, but certainly I am taking this as an example. Likewise, for writing, there are certain mini skills that has to be followed. So the mini writing skills are reading as much as you can, practice specific writing skills, that is practice each mini skill one by one. Learn how to write good sentences. A sparkling sentence is the basic ingredient of a good writing. Become more conversational by including questions in your writing. So each time you include questions, you make it sound more conversational to the audience and to your readers. Study how to choose flavored words and learn how to avoid bland phrases that make your writing tasteless and it doesn't really add value. Compose smooth transitions so readers glide from one sentence to the other sentence, from paragraph to the paragraph. Experiment with your voice by changing punctuation and adding a dynamic rhythm. So when I say rhythm, I still mean that the tone which differs and the tone that you want to convey from a formal tone, then you're moving to an informal tone to specifically mention something. And then create a mesmerizing flow by outlining or reverse outlining your content. That is what you want to convey. Practice writing sound bites that linger in your reader's mind. Cook up fresh metaphors, that is you can really come up with your own thoughts and a thought that can really add sense with just few choice of words. So you can really come up with it and you can certainly experiment that. Play with mini stories, so this can certainly help you. Moving on, what is important again is how we practice writing skills as such. So in order to do a little practice, I can certainly share certain workflow where you can go back and practice. So choose a topic and then select a genre, that is what is it you want to write in this topic. In case you are talking about unemployment in our country, so are you only targeting the youngsters, or are you also targeting the people who have crossed that certain age and barrier of job searching? And then then go on to get ideas through mind map technique. Mind map technique can help you get that specific ideas and organize your thoughts in order to give out much information about this topic. Discuss ideas with others to get new perspectives. Then find grammar and lexis suitable for the text. So there has to be specific grammar and specific text that has to be suitable. Then co-write the sections of text in groups. So what I'll do is, let me put this on slide. So I want you guys to look at the slide, the presentation slide, and this can help you get these steps one by one sequentially. And once you get these steps, all you have to do is, follow it as a guideline, a rule book, in order to make your writing effective. So it all starts with point 1, which is choose a topic, and I'll give you a few moments to go through this. Look at the points such as, study sample and model text similar to what they want to write, that is you want to write. Co-write sections of text in groups. Write a final version, find appropriate readers. Once you write, your work doesn't end there, but you have to consult and get specific readers to share the feedback, share the observations. Okay. Then we will move on to understand something what we did yesterday, that is stages of writing. Planning, drafting, revising, editing, that is responding, evaluating, and post writing are also part of these stages. So old school of writing versus creative writing, let us look at this now. So what comes to your mind when I say old school of writing? So let us discuss this in general. So old school of writing is your thought process that was really, specific with certain word choice, and it didn't really move on to be creative. So let us look at these pointers to understand your creative writing skill and your basic writing skill for that matter. Yeah. Only with the help of basic writing skill is where I can master creative writing skill. So basic writing, we already discussed what is important. Only when I am good at this, I can move to the other stage, which is creative writing. So in creative writing, I as a writer, I have all the creative choices to make and to add sense in my own way. So basically I experiment to write different choice of words, a different thought process that I get, and also an idea, example which might not be directly linked, but will certainly add a lot of value towards making it creative, towards making the text something really different from what has been existing here for the readers. So it's important that I analyze, that I can certainly experiment as a reader, but however how I make the text possible is all that matters. Moving further to understand, let us look at these sliders to better understand what and how we can pull up creativity. Write real letters and emails. So this is your, how members of certain groups, which are official groups, can look in. So these are your formal tone suggestive writings, that is you have to follow the formal tone of writing here, because these are read by members of parliament, manufacturing companies, etc. Then we have write your own newsletter, again sort of a formal writing. Advertise ideas, school, events, products, etc. And then we have the same advertisements which are being sent out as local ads and through local newspapers. Send comments, replies to discussion, reviews, etc. to the website. So there are now a wide number of discussions, message boards and news groups specifically for students or for special interest groups. Many shop and consumer sites also invite the reader reviews. Reader review, in order to review a text, it's a paid job these days. So in case you want to really look into that career, that can help you too. Write questionnaires and then use them out in the street. Long-term projects. Apply for things, fill in forms, register for things, etc. These can be written in English or in learner's own language. Write up the results, publish them, and then add whatever you would like to add. So steps in planning and writing. First one is asserting goals and making it more presentable. And then let's look at the step 3, which is planning and content. So how do you plan that specific content in order to get the information through your written communication? So if you want to convey something very specific, your planning has to be accurate. We cannot really miss out in the planning stage. If we do so, then we will not be able to achieve the trust and the impression from the readers. So it's important that we plan effectively in order to make our writing more accepted by the audience. Step 3 precisely means there's a correct content writing classes. So social issues, personal experiences, cultural issues, literature, etc. So there are a lot of reasons that we write a text or a content for. So these are the things that you can also start practicing in order to make your writing more sense and more valuable. Moving on, like this is the important slide where we brainstorm our ideas, where we really get the information in the structured manner. So how the information comes and goes towards making the text acceptable is totally depends on the brainstorming idea. So brainstorming is important and one of the most effective measures to make your writing effective. And then we have brainstorming, that is something we are going to talk about it right now. So basically brainstorming is idea, so maybe you guys can concentrate on the board here. So like mind map, brainstorming is a sort of a similar concept. So what we are doing in this brainstorming is we are getting all the ideas out, that is we have been showcasing our innovation skills, our decision making skills. We also are talking about innovation in our thought process, how we want to convey, creative thinking skills in order to create, encourage and provide all sort of thoughts that can add a lot of value to your written communication. So basically brainstorming is nothing but where you organize your ideas, anything that comes to your mind is being captured, and from then you lead the text towards making it either content or maybe making it more like a speech form. So you organize your thoughts basically, and then we lead towards understanding it, and then moving on to making it more effective. So let's move ahead and understand the other type of writing, which is structural and functional writing. So basically what happens in structural and functional writing is there are two different forms. We organize around our sentences which are grammatically correct. The sentence patterns are important in structural writing. Functional writing is more of describing, defining, explaining, persuading, comparing and contrasting the ideas. So it is important that structurally how I write and functionally how I present my conversation, that is my text. Let's analyze something more in writing. So brainstorming is used also for spoken communication. So nobody will stop you, hold you if we use it in spoken communication. Basically, you're getting your ideas across in the most organized manner, and it is suggested that we get the ideas out in the organized manner to make lot of sense when we are speaking and allowing the person to understand our communication. So like we said, communication can happen verbally, non-verbally, and verbally I can speak and communicate. I can write and communicate as well. So yeah, let's look at something different. Yeah, develop sticky writing habits. So how do I get my writing habits up? How did you learn did you ever learn a skill, maybe driving a car or riding a two-wheeler? So what did you really focus on? How did you really start? So basically it was a knowledge transfer first, and then we went on to practice to make our practice more effective. We did lot of mock practice as well, and then we made it really official that yes, we can drive or ride a two-wheeler now. Likewise for writing, it all starts with the amount of effort that you are putting in, the amount of information that you are sharing to make your writing comfortable. So writing skills are, like we said already, important part of communication. The communication takes place to a far larger audience than through face-to-face or telephonic conversation. So we're supposed to remember. Let's look at this slide in terms of understanding the composition and the style of writing. So what happens is, start with the audience. The reader should be introduced with the subject. Then create an outline. Then outlines help in identifying which steps to take in which order. This is one of the accepted technique that we use to make writing effective. AIDA, that is attention, interest, desire and action formula. These steps can help in the writing process. Attention, interest, desire, action. AIDA. So let's move to understand. Try some empathy, that is, one should remember the audience's needs all the times. Use the rhetorical triangle. One should make sure that one communicates why people should listen the message and should engage the audience. So we will work on understanding this formula for time being. Okay. So, AIDA, important steps: attention, then we have interest, desire, and the last step is your action. Remember this acronym to make your writing more effective. So, this is one of the concepts that was introduced for formal writing when you are submitting a project, and this was again taken ahead for concepts such as while we are making PowerPoint presentations in corporates or at any formal context. A lot of news agencies as well follow the similar concept. AIDA is an acronym that stands for attention, interest, desire, and then action. So, basically you have to draw the attention of the reader, and that is something we can do by getting that all creativity that you have in your thoughts and putting that in the written communication. So, how do I write a certain style of what I want to communicate, a structure that I want to experiment as a writer to get the attention from the reader. And then let's move on to talk about the interest. So, how do you hold the interest of the reader? So, as a writer, it is important for me that I should hold the attention span, the attention of a reader by making it more by giving chunk down information, not complicating the information, by giving lot of examples through storytelling, because every person likes stories and we all would relate to stories. So, as a writer, it is important that I get lot of stories in the examples and then share. Primarily, I can share my first hand experiences so that the buying can come in. Or the other thing to keep in mind is you can certainly share anything that's happening in the market, in the global news, to get a little more buying from the reader. Then we'll move on to discuss desire. Desire again is equally something that we have to keep in mind. Until and unless the person desires to read your text, as a reader, it is not a natural aspect to get the person directly to read your text or reading. So, we have to be very mindful and careful of the fact that how we create that exact desire and we make sense through our writing. And then action. So, what I keep in mind, I have to keep in mind that how do I give that right action to the readers to start reading your text and start going by what is supposed to be spoken through your writing. So, you have to create that action, and these steps are impossible without effective planning. So, planning plays an effective role for simple reason. You cannot drive the effectiveness, you cannot form that right impressions unless and until we drive the entire process. So, let us move on to further understand structure, grammatical errors and proofreading. Let us look at the slide for the structure of writing. So, let us look at the slide for the structure of writing. So, I want you guys to look at the slide. The document should be as reader friendly as possible. Use headings, subheadings, bullet points and numbering whenever possible to break up the text. Adding graphs and charts is also a smart way to break up your text. Using questions is a good idea. Questions help keep the reader engaged and curious. So let me give you a moment or two to understand this slide, and then we'll move on to the another slide. So the first point is very simple, make it user friendly text. Unless and until we make it simplified and user friendly, we will not be able to drive the effectiveness. In order to do so, it is important that I do not use any complex words, and I just go by the fact that it is imperative to get the information. Use headings, subheadings, bullet points and numbering whenever possible to break up the text. Adding paragraphs and charts is equally important. Now let's move on to understand the grammatical errors part in your writing. It's essential to learn grammar properly and to avoid common mistakes that spell checker won't find. So example, let me give you an example out here for grammatical errors. Example is your form and from. Both words have different contextual underlying of a message. When I select the word from and from, they are two different words, and if I interchange the entire meaning, and of course I can come out as a bad writer just because I've selected the incorrect word. So it's important that I understand the choice of words that I'm selecting, and always I do not end up relying on something called grammar checker or spell checker, because not everything will be captured by these tools. Using words such as effect instead of effect or missing out the apostrophe should be avoided. Everything that one writes should be of quality that every reader will find it acceptable. Proofing, let's look at these slides now. Proof your headers and subheaders, that is your main heading and the subheading. People often skip these and focus on the next alone because headers are big and bold doesn't mean they are error free. Read the document out loud. This way one is more likely to catch mistakes. So it's important that we go by this. Use your finger to follow text as you read. This is another trick that helps slow down. Start at the end of your document. Proofread from the end to the beginning. This helps focusing on errors and not on content. So conclusion, before we end the topic for today, it's important to know how to communicate a point quickly and professionally. Many people spend a lot of time writing and reading, so the better that we sit and communicate, how we communicate face to face when we simplify the information. Likewise, it is suggested to simplify while we are writing too. Identify the audience before even starting to create the document. If one feels that there is too much information to include, an outline should be created to outline the thoughts. Learning grammatical and stylistic techniques will also help in writing more clearly. Lastly, one should be sure to proofread the document before sending. So, do we understand why proofreading is so important in every stage that we are discussing? So, let us bring towards our thoughts in the summary right now before we conclude the program. So, we did discuss on these steps. We have also said and spoken widely about why proofreading is important, how to make your text effective, how to make it more readable, more presentable. So, this brings to the end of the video for today. We will have a couple of more sessions on writing skills. So 2 more sessions precisely which has been left. So all you have to do is go back, revise, practice on what we have suggested in terms of your writing. Writing as a skill can be helpful in every walk of your life. Be it you're writing a simple letter to an authority to get your electricity or power restored, or maybe you're writing to maybe cancel your connection. So how effectively you write your message plays a very important role in day-to-day life as well, or be it at workplace, university, or anything that you desire to do in your professional life. So let's all work towards making our writing skills effective and move to be a better writer. So if you have any questions which have been specific to this module, please do write into us. We'll be happy to assist you on this. Hope this session would give you much clearer idea about how effective writing can be can be made as a skill, and how do you practice going forward. Thank you for watching and happy learning.